Here in Israel, Sheba Medical Center recently signed two important agreements with health authorities in Dubai and Abu Dhabi to offer new healthcare services and improve cooperation between these allies when it comes to medical care, innovation, and research. Sheba recently sent a team of 5 expert doctors to the UAE to help medical professionals there get the ball rolling. Experts believe medical tourism, patients going to the UAE or vice versa, Emiratis coming to Israel for specialized services or treatments, will soon take off in a major way. With us now to talk more about the medical cooperation between Israel and the UAE and these new memorandum of understandings, I'm with Steve Waltz, the Sheba Medical Center International spokesman, and Dr. Nurit Ophir with Bar Ilan University. Steve, I'll start with you. Please just tell me more about these MOUs and what it means long-term, the significance of this long-term for these countries.
Significant long-term means that finally the UAE, which is facing a lot of medical issues amongst young people and older people amongst its population, means that now they have someone who's only 3 hours away by plane or by telemedicine, which we advance around the world, especially in the UAE that we want to work with now, allows them to come to us and say, okay, we have this problem A, this problem B. What we're doing is we are dealing with several issues. We're dealing with people who have high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, OBGYN, and it allows the UAE, whether it's the government of Abu Dhabi or the government of Dubai, to come to us and say, okay, here's a menu of what we need. Let's work together. That's exactly what we're going to do.
So tell me more about what this team from Sheba, this team of doctors who recently were in the UAE, what do they do there and what lessons did they bring home?
So what they did was they went to Al Tadawi Healthcare Center, which is a hospital, and I think it's also a big headline to say that Sheba is a microcosm of Israel, is that we are actually taking care of now 300 members of the UAE security forces, whether they are from the army, whether they are from the police, whether they are from the fire department. They have problems with high blood pressure and diabetes. We are going to treat them one by one. We did boots on the ground over there with doctors doing the first initial checkups, and then the rest of them will be checked by telehealth. The minute we have all of their medical records, which we do already, we will be checking them and do it by telemedicine. And if we have to send people over, we will.
Nurit, I want to ask you about the difference of culture, if I can, between the Emirates and Israel. Israelis, they go about business, they go about life perhaps in a different way than you would expect in the UAE. What does it mean for medical cooperation, medical partnerships and training between Israel and the Emirates, and how should Israelis be able to embrace this?
First of all, we have to concentrate many other partnerships around business, not only healthcare, but we can see that the gap between the cultures, between Israel and Emirates, are still in checking from each one of the sides, which it means, first of all, that if we hear lots of rumors in the media and the press about kind of cooperations, kind of agreements and assignments, not all the time we can find that it's true. Not all the time people aware of the meaning of what it says, and most of times it falls down. There are many, many reasons that it happens, and the first of them all is actually the gaps between the cultures.
What are some of the opportunities presented here?
I think that the opportunities are very, very far away from one or another subject. If we see all the subjects together, healthcare, if we see the media, if we can find cooperations between even a small business, it's really necessary, it's very important, but we have to know how to make it right. And this is something that we still don't know how to do. We can find many businessmen, many business people who make lots of mistakes, and this is a failure. And this is why it's very necessary to teach the people from the both sides, not only from the Israeli side, how to do it right.
What do you think is the biggest mistake then? Now, you mentioned there's opportunities sometimes, to borrow the English phrase, wires get crossed. I mean, what is the biggest mistake that you're seeing?
we can find that, first of all, we don't have the tools. Like, business people don't get the right tools how to do it right. We discussed, and we are talking about two nations that so far, until a year ago, they didn't have any connection or any, formal relations. Of course, that during decades we can see cooperations, but it was very quiet, very underground, and now it's different because we can find that many Israelis arrive to the Gulf and try to do business, and it doesn't work. So we have to figure out and ask ourselves what is wrong. The first, we have to learn how to do it right. We have to learn how to reach each other, how to react right, how to make it with much more tolerance, because we have gap, we are different, and Israelis are much more pushers than the Emiratis side, and we have to be much more tolerant than it is. First, second, there is a problem with Israelis. Israelis love to represent and present everything in media and press. Most of times it doesn't work. Sometimes the other side scared from it. Sometimes it's not relevant for people, and we are running too fast for the Emiratis, and we have to be careful. These are two main points, but there are many more. Like, people make many mistakes with attitude, with saying things that you're not allowed and you can't say in the Gulf. And this is something that's very sensitive nowadays.
Steve, talk to me about medical tourism, this term. What does it mean, and perhaps how is Sheba on the cutting edge in preparing for this to pick off in a big way?
Medical tourism will be an integral part of our relationship between Dubai and Abu Dhabi. In the past, they were sending people to Europe and the United States 5 hours, 10 hours away. Here we are in Israel, 3 hours away, and they can get quality medicine. Sheba is one of the top 10 world's best hospitals in the world, as ranked by Newsweek.
So we're talking about surgeries or treatments or just consultations?
You would say both. In other words, we will be able to consult. We will be able to bring people here. We have already brought a number of people from the Gulf and from the Emirates to Sheba, and we are treating them, and there will be some headlines along the way with others that we will be doing in the coming weeks and months. This is going to be a very steady flow of business for Sheba, and also within the realm of rehabilitation.